Good morning, welcome. We're now at the end of week 3, the last week coming up, and these last 3 weeks seem to have really flashed by, haven't they? And there's been some great posts which have highlighted the huge differences there are in the schools that you work in and in the approaches that there are to CAS. And I think that's been incredibly enriching. So looking at this week particularly, last week particularly, a number of things we looked at in terms of the idea of developing and having decent reflections. I think reflections are things which evolve over time, and with many students they need a lot of guidance and help to actually do that. For me, one of the biggest forms of reflection actually comes with interviews and informal discussions that you have with students. And there you can look at the goals they have for a particular activity, and you can really elicit from them particularly how they have started to achieve the learning outcomes. It also gives you a good idea of how well they've actually understood the learning outcomes. One issue that came up in the discussions was about what happens when students have values which are against that of the IB's set of values. Well, I think that provides quite a good learning possibility and a good chance for discussing things. One other thing which I think is really important about developing reflection is establishing a strong link between CAS and the theory of knowledge. In the theory of knowledge, the kids learn through the ways of knowing about the different things which affect the way we learn. For one example is obviously with emotions. So often when students are doing CAS work, their body language betrays exactly how well they're doing things or how committed they are to it. And that's one of the things which is discussed in the theory of knowledge as one of the ways of knowing, and obviously how it affects our learning. And as an example, that's one of the things which can also help the students to understand, first of all, how they act in CAS, and secondly, the impact it might have on other people. And that can come from a discussion in a TOK class about CAS experiences. There are lots of other links between CAS and TOK, and I guess one of the main ones is really through the area of knowledge of ethics. The ethics in TOK teach the kids different ethical systems which are used to make decisions. Now, often when you look at the things that students in the last 2 years at school do, they're using several different ethical systems to justify their actions. And that's normal, not only for them, but also for us. And it helps the kids to understand why they've taken certain actions in CAS. There's also the possibility that you could link an ethical issue to in CAS to a TOK presentation. And that's a possibility that you perhaps could explore with your TOK teachers. The last thing I'd say about reflection and developing reflectiveness is that students need to have to be taught some things about reflection and shown a variety of ways of reflecting. I think that's really important. When I was teaching the middle years program, the kids used to abhor reflection because they always assumed that it was related to a form and it had to be in writing. So try and move them away a little bit from just writing reflections. The other big issue that came up in this week was really about working with others. And what I would say is this: in any school, the ideal is that CAS involves students working in their local community as a priority. There are lots of global issues that occur in every community, whether it's poverty, working with immigrants, for example, is another global issue. And in all cities and places, there are environmental issues that we must confront. And it was so interesting in the earlier work, week that we had, that similar issues kept coming up about disposal of plastic and garbage recycling in general. And those are all possibilities for CAS activities. So I would say this: if you're thinking about being involved with a commercial CAS activity provider, be very, very clear about what they're offering and how much of what they're offering is actually really authentic and challenging for the students. And personally, I've found that a lot of the commercial offers, I'm pretty sceptical about the real value of CAS in them. So those are a few of my thoughts from last week. I was very impressed also with the level of projects that were involved, and there were some great ideas that clearly are hobby horses of several of you, which is great. Working with orphanages, creating an LGBT club in the school, that can be challenging in some schools, I guess, and also working to create stronger links with the community through animal shelters, through mask theatre, and also community running clubs. All really good ideas. And of course, there are many others that I haven't mentioned by name here. Now, in the last week, we're really getting into the sort of nitty-gritty of what we have to do as CAS coordinators. There's a Padlet wall I've created, and I've put the link up in the announcements for those headlines. You're going to be asked to give a program outline or to do a SWOT analysis of your current CAS program. You're also going to be asked to look at the CAS portfolio and how you would go about evaluating CAS. Now, at the end of the workshop, what you are expected to do to conclude the workshop is to try and give a holistic impression of the workshop itself as a concluding reflection. That is an expectation that you write that to sort of complete the workshop. We really should aim to have all of the posts done for the workshop by Wednesday the 25th of July. And I really appreciate your support and help. If you're wondering about the background, by the way, I'm not at home at the moment. I'm actually in southern Sweden, but I've been keeping tabs with all of your posts. And I'd like to thank everybody for their contributions and their thoughts. There's been some really good, thoughtful and thought-provoking posts. So look, I wish you well for this last week of the workshop, and I'm looking forward to reading your posts. So, bye.